I'm Dario Bar with the Global Post Confederation. I'm here with Chandrashekhar, Senior Editor and Policy Commentator for the Hindu Business Line. And this month, we're going to take a look at the latest Seeding Progress Report and touch on some other matters that have been in the headlines. And Chandra, let's dive right in. Let's run through last Friday's Seeding Report and what it says about pulses specifically.
Yes, the Government of India, the Ministry of Agriculture, between June and September, issues a weekly report on the progress of seeding of various crops covering rice, pulses, coarse grains, oilseeds, cotton, and so on. The latest report suggests, as far as pulses are concerned, that 11.2 million hectares have so far been completed as of 31st July, higher than 9.4 million hectares this time last year. Therefore, we are a little ahead of last year, 11.2 million hectares as of 31st July. The total acreage for pulses during the Kharif season is usually around 13 million hectares. Therefore, we still have about 2 million hectares to plant, which means that the reports probably next week or a week later will probably give us the final picture. I expect that the acreage will possibly slightly exceed the final acreage for this Kharif season will slightly exceed 13 million hectares. It could be 13.2 or even 13.5, but not substantially higher than what it has been over the last 5 years. This is number one. Number two, there are three major pulse crops in this Kharif season. One is pigeon pea, which we call tuar or arhar. The acreage, normal acreage, the 5-year average for pigeon pea is about 4.4 million hectares. And as of 31st July this year, we've already completed 4 million hectares, which is slightly above 3.7 million hectares this time last year. Same is the case with urad, which is called black mud pea. The total acreage for this season, Kharif season, is usually 3.6 million hectares, of which we have already completed as of 31st July, 3.3 million hectares versus last year's 2.8 million hectares, which is we have already exceeded last year's level. And the third big crop is moong, which the normal acreage is about 3 million hectares. And I think as of 31st July, we've actually completed 3 million hectares, vis-a-vis 2.2 million hectares of last year. Therefore, in case of moong, I think we have made substantial progress as of 31st July vis-a-vis last year. And I will not be surprised if the moong acreage goes slightly beyond the 5-year average of 3 million hectares to possibly 3.3 million hectares, 10% higher, because moong minimum support price is far higher than for other crops. And therefore, the farmers will probably feel more encouraged, saying that higher minimum support price would mean higher prices for them. And therefore, for the crop progress as of 31st July is absolutely satisfactory. We are a little ahead of what it was last year. And over the next 1 week or so, 2 weeks maybe, that the entire planting will be completed. At the risk of repetition, let me say 13 million hectares is the normal Kharif acreage for all pulses put together. And this year we will certainly touch 13 million tons, possibly exceed by half a million hectares to 13.5 million hectares. And for that, therefore, it's the seeding pattern, seeding progress is quite satisfactory. But let me tell you, it is not just pulses whose planting or seeding has progressed very well this year so far. It is also oil seeds, which vis-a-vis last year, this year the oil seed plantings have been substantially ahead. 17.5 million hectares oil seeds, groundnut, soybean, etc. Vis-a-vis only 15 million hectares last year. Cotton, this year we have done 12.1 million hectares as of 31st July, which was only 11 million hectares last year this time. Or I think we have done even in cotton very well. Maize also we have done reasonably well. Therefore, overall, this year the progress of seeding is absolutely satisfactory. Like we discussed last time, if you recall, last month,
Yeah.
that the conditions have been quite favorable with reasonably good subsoil moisture, uh, timely onset of the southwest monsoon, reasonably good progress over the whole of June and most of July. The farmers, because of lockdown and lack of other activities, were enthusiastically engaged in seeding operations, and therefore we are seeing this. Therefore, I think it's a fairly good progress and a good satisfactory state of seeding in India as of now.
Was there anything, Chandrashekhar, in the report in terms of pulses that stood out to you or surprised you?
Honestly, no. In the initial stages, there were a lot of people who had said that the pulses acreages are running far ahead this year as compared with last year. And if you remember, we discussed this last month, and I wrote a commentary in the Hindu Business Line that last year the monsoon was delayed, and therefore there was a delayed start to the seeding operations. I think it was as late as 25th of June. And therefore, this year, because it started early, by end May, early June, I think it initial stages, the seeding, the progress in seeding, the pace of planting appeared to be accelerating. But I was absolutely convinced, and I'm convinced even now, that the eventual final seeded acreage will stay very close to what it was last year's level, because we don't have unlimited land for expansion of planting, and therefore it may be up by 200, 300, 400 thousand hectares pulses, but not substantially higher. Therefore, I think the progress is quite good. There is nothing really outstanding as such, except for the fact that this year the seeding operation started quite early, and the conditions were quite conducive. And I'm hoping even in the future years, if this is a kind of seeding progress we are going to see, it will be very good for the country. Yeah.
Okay, and we're approaching the festive season there in India, and demand for pulses is expected to pick up. Could you tell us a little bit about the festivities, what is being celebrated, and the roles of pulses in the celebrations?
Sure. Believe me, today, this Monday, 3rd of August, is, I would call, some kind of a beginning of a series of festivals. And today is an auspicious day. It's called Raksha Bandhan, where the sister meets the brother, and they exchange gifts, etc. And there is something called Rakhi, which the sister ties in the wrist of the brother. Okay, so that it's to create bonding between siblings, the brother and the sister. And for we have this exactly 8 days from now, we have what is called Lord Krishna's birthday, which is Gokulashtami. Then about a fortnight later, we have Ganesh Chaturthi, Ganpati festival, the elephant god festival. This is August. In September, we have 15 days of what is called inauspicious time, where no new ventures are started. It's called Pitru Paksha, 15 days, and that is September. But in October, we have early October the festival called Navaratri. It's actually 10 days. Navaratri is 9 nights. It's actually 10 days. It culminates on the 10th day with Durga Puja, and then you have Diwali in November. Therefore, this is going to this will continue until early November or mid November, and it's fun. That's the time India, after the monsoon, after the rains, the temperatures start declining. People start moving out. The farmers are busy, probably harvesting the crop in September, October, and there is a great festive mood. There's a lot of color around, a lot of greenery, and all that. It's a great feeling, really speaking. Therefore, this is the start of the today. 3rd of August is the start of the festive season. Thank you very much for organizing this interview today. And therefore, this festival season, August, September, October, usually the demand for food goes up. In fact, there's a demand not only for food, but also for clothing, and also for, you paint the house, make home improvements, you buy a new vehicle, you buy gold jewelry, whatever. There's a whole lot of things happen during the festival season. Definitely food consumption substantially expands during the season, because people prepare food and gift food to others, etc. This year, of course, I am seeing, of course, there will be a small growth in consumption as compared with the previous 4 months, April, May, June, July. During August, September, October, demand for food products, including pulses, will certainly pick up. But I don't see a big spike in consumption, which you used to have all these years, because of the pandemic, because of the lockdown, because of closure of economic activities, the closure of factories. People have lost their job, people have lost incomes. There's a huge amount of demand destruction. And because of this demand destruction, I see that the festival demand growth will be muted. There'll be some growth, but I think it'll be substantially muted. I also know, and I want to share with you, that chickpea flour in Hindi is called besan. Demand for besan, and besan is an ingredient, a food ingredient for a wide variety of snacks. It makes for a good batter for a number of snacks. And if demand for besan, the chickpea flour, increases during the festival season, because a lot of fried items are prepared. Also, moong is also a good ingredient for preparing a number of food items, and therefore both chickpea and moong demand usually expands during this festival season. I'm sure it'll expand this year, but certainly not as much as we have seen in the last several years. It'll be quite muted. For the beginning of festival season is quite auspicious, and people want to have a good time.
Well, I hope you get to enjoy it, Chandrashekhar, with your family and friends, despite the pandemic. Last month, you told us about delays in the issuance of import permits for moong, pigeon peas, and peas. That yellow peas were excluded, if I recall. Any update there? I saw some headlines not too long ago that was still an issue.
Oh, it's still a problem. I wrote probably 10 days ago, if I remember correctly, maybe 2 weeks ago, a second piece. I wrote one sometime early June or end May, I don't remember, early June. And the second piece I wrote a week or 10 days ago, saying these delays are frustrating. There are about 7,000 applications which the government of India has received, okay, for import. Therefore, they need to scan these applications. And now some of the officials from the government of India are visiting factories to ensure that the factory does exist and that the capacity of the factory that has been declared in the application does exist, etc. I think there is now a process of verification, a process of inspection of factories. I was hoping this process will be completed in July and permits will be issued, but I'm told it's still going on in many places. But I'm hoping at least by the mid August, the government takes a final decision and issues permits. But the delay is extremely frustrating, and having announced a policy, it is most unfair that the government of India is delaying for whatever reason issue of these permits. And in fact, I wrote saying that we are becoming a laughing stock in the world market, and because there is no great justifiable reason for this delay, because the policy, the quantitative restrictions were announced in April. April, May, June, July should be taking 4 months for issue of quotas. And the more the government of India delays issue of these permits, and the more delayed it will be. The arrival will be further delayed. And if the arrival start in September or October, it'll actually clash with my domestic harvest. And therefore, there'll be too much of crop available in the month of October, which will depress domestic prices. So this is completely thoughtless. I don't know. I feel very upset. I feel very angry because of these delays. But what can I do? I can only vent my anger by speaking and writing in the newspaper. But this delay is really frustrating. I'm hoping that in the month of August, permits will be issued and imports will start taking place.
Yeah, because with all the delays, we keep missing part of the festive season, right? When demand is expected to increase a little bit. Another thing we talked about last month.
No.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
One second, let me add. The government of India issued permits for urad, black mud pay, to many people sometime in April. Imports were supposed to come from Myanmar. The quota is about 400,000 tons, but actual import so far is only about 50 or 60,000 tons. But still, cargoes have to come. But in the meanwhile, as you know, and we spoke last month, that there has been a reduction in the customs duty on lentil.
Yes.
Right? From 30% to 10% ad valorem. So as a result of this reduction in customs duty on lentil, India, I estimate Indian importers have contracted for approximately 450,000 to 500,000 tons, 500,000 tons max, comprising about 100,000 tons of green lentil and about probably 350,000 tons of red lentil. And these cargoes are now arriving. About a little over 200,000 tons, a little over 200,000 tons has already arrived. And more quantities would come before the 31st of August. The big question, of course, is would the government of India extend this duty concession beyond 31st August, or will they restore status quo ante, which is status quo ante is 30% duty, which was prior to the change of duty. We still don't know. My strong view is that the government will take a call on whether or not to extend this duty concession beyond 31st August by the last week of August, or between the 20th and 30th of August. And that decision, in my view, will be based on the behavior of domestic prices. If the domestic prices feel pressured down because of this large arrival and pressured down because of the upcoming Kharif season harvest, then possibly the finance ministry will decide not to extend the customs duty concession beyond 31st August. But if prices continue to remain firm, then possibly this concession could be extended beyond August. So we need to wait and watch. Yes, already there are concerns about inflation kind of rearing its head, food inflation in particular. But the credit policy of the Reserve Bank of India, which is the central bank for India, the Reserve Bank of India, I think, has a meeting tomorrow and the day after. We need to wait and watch. I think they are in a dilemma whether to allow inflation to rise or to kickstart the economy, whether to further reduce interest rates. And for that, that's the dilemma they are going through, and we'll probably know by Wednesday what the policy outlook, monetary policy outlook of the Reserve Bank of India. I believe there is a strong case for allowing inflation to rise and to allow to reduce interest rates to boost economic activity, but we have to wait and watch.
Well, on that topic of prices, minimum support prices, right, for the domestic production, you mentioned last time, you added to a question, the idea that the MSPs might push domestic prices above, make them more expensive than imports. I read it that the government recently announced MSPs for Kharif season crops, and prices for pulses are up more than 3% on average. How do you see MSPs affecting market dynamics?
Actually, these days, in the last 2 years or so, MSP is becoming less and less relevant. The government of India believes by hiking the minimum support price that the farmers will be more and more encouraged to plant. But that is not really so. The farmer will be encouraged to plant more if the government's procurement mechanism becomes stronger and stronger. Except for lentil, there is no other pulse whose farm gate price or open market price is more than the minimum support price. All the prices of most pulses are actually ruling below the minimum support price. Take chickpea, for example, chana, 4,850 rupees per 100 kilograms is the MSP. The actual market rate is about 4,100 or 4,200 rupees, easily 10 to 12, 15% below the minimum support price. And other pigeon pea is the same case, 5,800 rupees per 100 kilograms, but ruling at around 5,000 rupees a pigeon pea. Now, for this Kharif season, the minimum support price of pigeon pea has been hiked by 200 rupees to 6,000 rupees per 100 grams. And that's actually a very notional increase. But given the progress of the crop and the possibility of a reasonably good harvest, pigeon pea prices are certainly going to remain below the minimum support price, forcing the government to intervene in the market and procure quantities. But they are not going to be able. The government is not going to be able to procure all the quantities that is offered because their procurement operations are more localized rather than national. So there are going to be challenges. But an increase in minimum support price helps lift the open market price to that extent because MSP becomes the benchmark for the trade. Yeah.
Chandra, I also read that the mandis were seeing fewer arrivals because of the agricultural reforms. Could you speak to that and to any other impacts, changes that are going on with the implementation of the reforms?
No, it is. I think it's too early to read to know anything about the changes that these reforms are likely to bring to the Indian market, agriculture market, post-harvest markets. The decline in arrivals is actually seasonal.
Okay.
Primarily, the Rabi crops were marketed in March and April, and it continued. Wheat procurement continued till May, and a substantial part of the wheat is purchased by the government of India. Chana, chickpea has also been bought by the government. For the mandi arrivals, usually taper down during June, July, and August because we are transiting from Rabi harvest to Kharif planting or Kharif seeding, Kharif sowing, and therefore it's only natural that mandi arrivals would decline during June, July. Therefore, I don't see that as any danger signal or a signal that APMC markets are not going to be favored or that farmers are going to favor private markets. No, I don't see that. I think it's too early to read too much into this decline in arrivals. It's a seasonal phenomenon, number one. Number two, private markets is still, they have a long way to go before they become operational. And therefore even come September, October, APMC markets will certainly do well. But now there is a message. The APMC markets have received a strong message that they can't continue with their monopolistic attitude, that there are going to be private markets which are going to compete with the APMC market. And therefore, my strong sense is that the APMC market will start building better and better efficiencies in the system and will become increasingly more farmer friendly in order to attract more business. There are many analysts in India who are willing to write the obituary of the APMC markets. Certainly not. I completely disagree. I'm absolutely convinced that the APMC markets are here to stay, and there will be a positive, healthy competition between APMC markets and the private markets. I will not be surprised if some of the APMC markets are even privatized by the government, and increasingly APMC markets will be depoliticized. The committees will be depoliticized, and they will become increasingly farmer friendly. That's the future I'm seeing for the APMC market. But private markets will thrive depending on the efficiency with which private markets operate, depending on the facilities the private market gives to the grower, depending on the price that the private market offers to the grower vis-a-vis APMC market. There will be healthy competition between these two markets, which is very good. I think farmer will have greater choice. Either he can go to the APMC market or he can go to the private market. So I think it's a very good development as far as India is concerned.
It's going to be very interesting to watch.
Yeah.
Now, Chandra, before we let you go, what are the key factors you think you would recommend people keep an eye on in the month of August?
In the month of August, there are two key factors. One is, of course, the rainfall. In the last 10 days or so, there has been a slight reduction in the quantum of rainfall in some of the regions, like Madhya Pradesh, which is generating some small concern about soil moisture. But the India Meteorological Department has once again asserted that in August, the monsoons rains will pick up. There'll be enough soil moisture available during the month of August, and therefore there is absolutely no danger to the crops. And that's the kind of assurance we've received. But the concerns are real as of today. If it does not rain over the next 10 days, say until the 10th or 12th of August, then there can potentially be some damage to crops like moong, because moong it's a delicate crop. Urad is also somewhat delicate. But we need to wait and watch, because we cannot be speculating on the rains. The Met Office has categorically said that we'll have reasonably good distribution of rainfall in August. Therefore, I think we need to remain hopeful. And therefore, that's one. Rainfall during August, both temporal and spatial distribution of rain in August is one key development we need to track. The second key development will be customs duty on lentils import. Will it stay, or will it be reversed? We still don't know. And the third point will, of course, be the issue of permits. Will permit be issued? I'm hoping that permits will be issued without any further delay. Therefore, these are the three significant factors to track during the month of August.
Great, and we will check in with you again at the end of the month, and we'll talk about those and other issues. Till then, my friend, have a very happy festive season, and take good care of yourself.
Thank you very much. Good luck and God bless.